Max Verstappen, Red Bull superstar, recently shared in a shocking confession that he might consider joining his long-standing rival Formula One team, Mercedes, even though there's a stark difference in the team's atmosphere and approach to racing. While a move to the Silver Arrows would definitely send the racing community in a frenzy, Verstappen has come out to say that if a team is genuinely excited about having him on board, they would be prepared to go the extra mile and make necessary adjustments to accommodate his requirements. In a conversation with De Telegraaf, the Dutchman talked about the possibility of joining a corporate team like Mercedes. He said, "That's indeed a very different environment. It's always important to stay true to yourself and keep speaking your mind. It doesn't matter to me where that is. If a team really wants me in such a situation, they will also make an effort, and you can probably adapt certain things to some extent. You sort of meet halfway." Pairing up Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton would either divide or unite the F1 community, but the Red Bull driver acknowledged that such a collaboration is unlikely to come to fruition, for now at least. Currently, this is not even on the table. In the past, I could never have imagined achieving this level of success. I dreamt of reaching Formula One and perhaps driving for a top team someday. In response to critics who brand his dominance with Red Bull as boring, Verstappen rejects their opinion and reiterates his appreciation for his achievements, saying, "This is what I've always worked for. If people now are calling it boring, so be it. I also know the other side of the coin. Personally, I find it anything but boring." Verstappen is having a commanding season in F1 2023, securing victory in 10 out of the first 12 races. He's set to potentially match Sebastian Vettel's record of 9 consecutive wins at the upcoming Dutch Grand Prix. Max Verstappen said that he has no intention of racing in F1's midfield. He emphasized that if Red Bull fails to deliver in 2026, he would prefer to stay at home instead. Then it must be very bad and dramatic, I think. I also don't expect a team to fall back that far, with all those good people walking around with us. It can always be the case in this sport that you are not doing well as a team. Then it's about what the outlook is and what the perspective is. But indeed, I don't see myself touring around in the midfield for 3 years. Then I would rather stay at home or do something else. But again, I don't see that happening. Verstappen confessed that he had uncertainties about Red Bull's ability to achieve success in Formula One before committing to a new long-term contract extending until 2028, saying, "Not that, but I did think, will it still work here? But we always got back together in the end. A lot has happened within the team over the years. Just look at the switch of engine supplier, from Renault to Honda, and the way in which it is now working on its own engine. There was always something to look forward to. That was the deciding factor to extend my contract." Even as he marches towards clinching his 3rd consecutive World Championship title, the dominant force in Formula One has consistently hinted that his illustrious career might be shorter than many had originally expected. Bound to Red Bull until the conclusion of 2028, Verstappen has raised uncertainties about the likelihood of extending his career beyond that timeframe. There's even speculation about the possibility of not fulfilling the entirety of his current contract, especially as his commitments in Formula One continue to escalate. As Formula One's top-earning driver, reportedly commanding a salary of $55 million, some might argue that Verstappen is being generously compensated for the commitments he makes. However, he rebuts such opinions by emphasizing that this isn't solely about the money, but rather his own well-being. He said, "I care about the sport that I always really liked, and still like it, but to a certain extent. It is also not that I'm completely against changes, as is sometimes claimed, but they have to be changes that benefit Formula One. Why do you need to change certain things if things are running well? I think a traditional qualifying session is set up just fine in that form. It shouldn't just be about money. People might think, he makes a lot of money, what is this guy whining about? But it's about well-being, how you experience things, and not how much you earn. I sometimes think I have to do too many things. Then I sometimes think, is this still worth it?" The main factors contributing to these sentiments aren't the growing calendar or the exhausting travel, but rather the plethora of additional activities that happen beyond the act of racing a Formula One car. That's not the biggest problem. For me, it's more about what I have to do on top of it all. A Thursday before a race weekend is sometimes already quite long, although it depends a bit on where we are. Outside the Grand Prix, there is also simulator work, but I spend more than a month a year on marketing, for example. At some point, you no longer feel like doing that. After sharing that he occasionally questions if F1 is still worth it, Helmut Marko said that Max Verstappen might opt for retirement when his ongoing contract with Red Bull ends. Marco doesn't anticipate Verstappen racing at the age of 41 like Fernando Alonso, even if he decides to extend his contract. Verstappen has previously discussed his perspective on his long-term presence in Formula 1. The double world champion has been explicit about his desire to explore other aspects of life outside the realm of F1. Now in a long-term commitment with Red Bull and relishing the thrill of consistently securing victories in Formula 1, Verstappen's contract is set to be fulfilled at the close of the 2028 season. The end of his contract might also mark the end of the road for the 25-year-old racer. While talking to motorsportmagazine.com, Marco said, "I don't think he's a guy who will drive as long as an Alonso, for example, but will be someone who says at some point, that's it. It certainly depends on how the sport develops." Ferrari team principal, Frédéric Vasseur, has come out and accused Red Bull of playing favorites. The Frenchman has affirmed his commitment to maintaining fairness between both of his drivers, while also pointing out that Red Bull is the only team known for displaying an obvious preference for one driver over the other. He said, No, don't put Helmut Marko's words in my mouth. I never said it, nor have I ever done it. I'm just saying that if you want to aim for the Drivers' Championship, at a certain point in the season, you have to make a choice and favor those further up in the standings. However, we are not in these conditions today. Your question assumes Charles is number one, but that's not the case. I started this job 25 years ago, thinking that two drivers should be given the same support, and I have no intention of changing. All the teams move in this way, with the exception of Red Bull with Verstappen and Perez. The RB19 from Red Bull stands out as the leading and swiftest contender in the 2023 F1 season, with Max Verstappen's exceptional driving skills enabling him to extract the utmost performance from the car. If he secures victory in the next two races, he will surpass Sebastian Vettel's record for the most consecutive wins in Formula 1. In contrast to Verstappen, his teammate Sergio Perez has struggled to keep up despite having access to the same car. Following the Belgian GP, Perez finds himself trailing by a significant 125 points, a performance that has drawn criticism. Helmut Marko recently addressed the ongoing speculation about the team's supposed favoritism towards Verstappen. He emphasized that Red Bull has consistently maintained a neutral stance. Marko firmly asserts that there hasn't been any preferential treatment towards Verstappen over Perez, denying Vasseur's accusations. He said, "No, that is not true. At the beginning of 22, the car suffered a lot of understeer. This was due to the car being overweight. In the long run, you will not be successful with an overweight car. But as the car became lighter, the car went more to a neutral balance, or even a bit more oversteer." What do you think? Is Red Bull secretly sabotaging Sergio Perez, or is Max Verstappen just that good? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell for the hottest F1 news.